Hi, Raven here. Just before we get started, if you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching, then please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you wish to support me further, there's a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description. And one last thing, if there's something you would like me to cover, you can now make requests in my Discord channel. There's a link to it on the channel and in this video's description. Now back to it. This video is going to cover two requests as they're related. The first being the subscriber wanted to know how to set up smoke and fire modules, and the other subscriber wanted to produce an explosion that didn't damage or move the players or units. So they're both kind of covered under effects. So you can use these in your scenarios or if you're creating scenes. And I've got some sort of examples laid out here. So we'll go through the smoke and fire first. I've got here some examples, and basically I've set out what I think you want to change. So there are only certain factors that you really need to change. So this is the fire, these sort of ones here, and these are the smoke. As you can see, I've labelled them. So I'll zoom in a bit more. So with these three, I've just focused on changing the density. So particle density is 25 by standard, as you sort of drag it in. So they're over here, systems, effects, fire. Just drag it in. So as it is, the particle density is 25. So I've done one here where it's 50 and one here at 100. The other thing that you want to change is the particle size. So by standard it is 1, and I've done another one here 5, so you can see the difference. And lastly, the effect size. As standard it's 1, and again I've done a 5, so you can see what the difference is. Now for the smoke, the only thing you really want to change is the particle density. So as standard it's 10, I've done 50 and 100. So we'll just focus on these for now. Let's go in and show you what it looks like. So if I, what I'll do is I'll just push my guy down there further. That guy there ready to run is to set up the explosion. So if I just come down here. So what I've done is I've turned the damage off, which I'll show you how to do in a sec. But you can see the difference here. So this is standard. So if we go in, I've done a little trigger that tells us what it is. Particle density 25, density 50, and density 100. So you can see the difference there. If we go to this one here, this particle size is 1. And the particle size is 5. You can see quite a big difference there. Over here, it's the effect size 1 and the effect size 5. Now the same with the smoke. So this is standard. We go in it. Particle density 10. Particle density 50, particle density 100. So while you would probably use the different sort of densities, I could foresee the really dense one you might want over an oil well in a scenario, just to sort of show that the oil well's on fire, and the lighter density you might have on a vehicle sort of that's damaged, like the engine, something like that. So over here I'm showing you that you can actually change the colour of the smoke as well, and the vibrance of the colour, which I'll cover now. And lastly, the other thing with smoke is this: once you set the module down, it will just carry on throughout the whole scenario and there's no way to get rid of it. So I've created a script that will get rid of the smoke. So if you had a damaged vehicle and you wanted it sort of smoking lightly so that you could find it, say it was a hidden object, you wanted to find it, but then once you're done with that object, so you found the vehicle and then you've moved away from that area, you might want the smoke to sort of disappear, to add a bit more realism. You know, the smoke's not going to smoke for forever, so if I just step in this little trigger, this smoke in front of me will disappear after 5 seconds. There you go, it dispersed after 5 seconds. So now we'll go back to the editor. I'll cover the smoke script in a bit. Let's just go through how we've set these up. So if we grab a fire module and open it up, just drag it over to the side there. Let's just move over here a bit. There we go. So this first row, we just concentrated on the particle density, so that's there. Second row is the particle size, which is there, and the effect size, which is there. So you might want to play about with different sort of setups. So you might want the particle size to be larger and the density to be larger. The only other thing you want to change perhaps is the fire damage. So in all these I set this damage to 0, which means it won't damage anything. And that's that. So if we open up a smoke, let's get the smoke down. So the only one I really ever change on the smoke is the particle density, which is this one here. And over there, let me cancel that, over there I've changed the colour. So if we just drag this little module over, open that up. So here you've got the 3 different colours, so RGB, and then you've got the alpha, which is the sort of light density. So yeah, you just hover over, it says transparency. So I'd leave it on 0.5 and I'd just change the colour. So if you want it all red, then what you would do is make these 0, blue and green, and then that would be red. So you remember there was one that was sort of colour weak red, and then there was one that was quite strong red. So that was the weaker red, 0.5. If you want it the strong red, just 1. And that's literally it. That's how we get the colour. So that's that part. So the next thing I want to show you is the explosion. So if I put my guy over here, what I'm going to do is run into this trigger, which will then send this guy running, and he'll run through this trigger, and this little marker here is where the explosion will take off. And I've set a thing out over there to show you in a sec, but let's just go through this. So I've got an explosion that is done by script, and it won't damage anybody in the area, and it shouldn't move anybody in the area, because you can turn the damage off the guy. So you can just go in here, enable damage, and you won't get damaged by it. But if you want to add it into a scenario where you still want to get shot but you just want explosions all around you just for cinematics, then this is the way to do it. But yeah, as I was saying, a normal explosion, even if you turn your damage off, the blast will push you. So if I was running towards this guy and that goes off, if I've got no damage on, I'll get shoved over to the right or the left or backwards, which obviously ruins the cinematic, which is what the subscriber was after. So let's just show you what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to run towards the guy, and the guy's going to run towards me. The explosion's going to go off, and you're going to see that neither of us get pushed off of our path, and neither of us die. Hopefully it'll work. Okay, so go through here. He starts running. Run towards him. Still running. He's just run past me. We're both alive. Both not being pushed off our path. And that's like the biggest explosion in the game as well. So let's go back to the editor. Now I'll go through that script as well. But just before I do, I thought I'd show you another thing you can do. If you just want to use explosions for cinematics, then there's another way of doing it. So what you do is you turn off your damage. Turn off his damage. I've already done that. And then I've put these two markers here because I tested it earlier. So if we put down ordnance, it's another module. Just going to put that on top of there. So leave them at 82mm mortar. And then when what we'll do is change this trigger to true. So when the mission starts, he'll start running, as will the mortars will already start launching. So I've kind of calculated it, and this is something you'll have to do. So what I did to calculate it is I took the damage, left the damage on him, so that when the ordnance dropped, I sort of used where he died and then calculated how many squares, and then that gives you your run time before the ordnance dropped. Hopefully that makes sense. So what we'll do is so this is a cinematic scenario, so you wouldn't want to do this in your actual game scenario.
Take cover. Artillery inbound.
So you could have it recording now. So that's quite good. So then what we could do is we could bring some fire modules over. So let's just let me grab that. Yep. So explode there. Let's put a fire in front of him, so he'll run through that fire.
Brace yourselves. Enemy shells incoming.
There you go. So you can very quickly start building up a nice cinematic. You could then transfer all this to a map with actual a nice environment. You could change the time of day so it's slightly darker maybe, so that everything sort of looks nicer when the fire's going and stuff like that. But I'll leave that down to you to tweak that. I just thought I'd show you how to set it up, and just before I end the video we'll go through the scripts quickly. Right, we're in the mission folder and I've got two SQFs that I've created. So let's do the easy one. So the stop smoke module, if we open that up. So all you have to do is put that in a trigger, or you can script it in. So that will then fire this script or SQF file. And two things you want to change is the first bit here. That's what I've called the smoke module. So you can call it whatever you want. So smoke remote delete 1 I've just called. It's a bit of a mouthful, but yeah, whatever you call the module, that's where you want to put that there. And then the 5, that is how many seconds it takes to disperse the smoke. So 5's pretty good. So they're literally the only two things you need to change. And obviously if you've got multiple smoke modules, then call this number 1 and then have different module names in there. So the next one is the safe explosion. So again, you call it up. So I had that in the trigger, so it called up this SQF file, and the only thing you need to change is whatever you call your marker. So I called the marker explosion 1. That's all you need to do, and that's the explosive type. Everything else you just need to leave as it is. So all it does in a nutshell is it basically adds an anchor so that our guys don't get pushed by the blast. It then does the explosion and then removes the anchor. So that's basically what you see in there. So what I'll do is put the mission, which will have the SQFs in it, in my Dropbox, download it, go through it, and hopefully that helped. Alright, good luck.